Can define child abuse as child abuse is any action by another person, adult or child, that causes significant harm to a child. It can be physical, sexual, or emotional, but can just as often to be about lack of love, care, and attention. We are lacking attention, care, and love to the children. This is also part of child abuse. Or if a child is tortured by his parents, any other person, or any other child, this is also called child abuse. An abused child will often experience more than one type of abuse, as well as other difficulties in their lives. If we talk about its demographics means its prevalence. Mean to say, what is its calculation? The total abuse rate of children is 25.2%. 25.2 per thousand children means say out of 1000 children, 25.2% children are abused, with physical abuse accounting for 5.7% per thousand, sexual abuse 2.5 per thousand, emotional abuse 3.4 per thousand, and neglect accounting for 15.9 per 1000 children. Now we will discuss about. So there are major five types of child abuse. The most prominent is emotional abuse, neglect, physical abuse, family violence, and sexual abuse. So first of all, we will discuss emotional abuse. Emotional abuse refers to the psychological and social aspects of child abuse. It is the most common form of child abuse. So what are the causes of emotional abuse? Parents have negative attitude towards the children. This is one of the cause of emotional abuse. They perceive parents as unrewarding and difficult to enjoy. They associate their own negative feelings with the child's difficult behavior. Poor parenting methods, parental mental health problems, domestic violence, drug and alcohol misuse, being abused or having been in care as children. What are the signs in childhood? Emotionally abused children exhibit a range of specific signs. We'd say what will be the signs of abused children? They feel unhappy, frightened, insecure, and distressed. They behave aggressively and antisocially, or they may act too mature for their age. Experience difficulties with academic achievement and school attendance. Abused children find it difficult to make friends. Means say they're not as much friendly as they should. They show signs of physical neglect and malnourishment. Experience incontinence and mysterious pains. So, uh, signs in adulthood. When a child is being abused in his childhood, he will also be abused in the adulthood. Its signs and symptoms will also be appeared in the adulthood. During his adult life, adults emotionally abused as children are more likely to experience mental health problems and difficulties in personal relationships. Psychological and psychosocial problems associated with multiple forms of trauma in childhood. Now, the next type of child abuse is neglect. Neglect refers to a range of circumstances in which a parent or caregiver fails to adequately provide for a child's needs. We say all the necessities of a child are not being fulfilled by the parents. Why? Because they are neglecting their children. Physically, through the provision of food, shelter, and clothing. When the parents are unable to pay to provide food, shelter, or clothing to the children are being neglected in that case. By exercising adequate supervision and control of the child, this is also the cause of neglect. By ensuring their access to medical care when necessary, by ensuring that the child regularly attends school, emotionally, by providing them with care, love, and support, by showing appropriate moral and legal guidance. What are the causes of neglect? Socioeconomic status. This is the most prominent in the underdeveloped countries. Socioeconomic status of the parents is not as good, so they are unable to provide food, shelter, care, and love to their children. This is a part of neglect abuse. Number of children is more than they can take care. Stress of the parents, psychological problems of the parents, drug and alcohol misuse by the parents, being abused or having been in care as children, strict behavior also causes the neglect of the children. What will be the signs of neglect? A neglected child will be unhappy. He will show aggressiveness. He will not be as talkative. He will be hungry. Resultantly, he will be weak, and his poor personal hygiene will also show that he is being neglected. Next, third type is physical abuse. In physical abuse, it may be hitting, slapping, kicking, or sticking with an object to children. In this abuse, children are being physically abused, like they are being kicked by their parents or being striking on an object to children. These are the signs that show that children are physically abused. Next, characteristics of parents who physically abuse children. Mean to say what kind of parents will physically abuse to their children? Those parents having emotional impairment, substance abuse, lack of social support, presence of domestic violence, and a history of childhood abuse. If the parents are themselves being abused in their childhood, they will also abuse to their children, most probably. What will be the signs in childhood? Physically abused children find it difficult relating to their peers and the adults around them. Means to say the physically abused children will be unable to mix or make friends with their age fellow. They are also vulnerable to emotional storms or instances of overwhelming emotional responses to everyday situations. These storms can take the form of profound grief, fear, or rage, which is not part of a good personality. Physically abused children may have problems with academic achievement, physical development and coordination, developing friendships and relationships, aggression and anger management, depression, anxiety, and low self-esteem, marks over the body, fracture, anxiety, and fear. Next is very important how we will investigate that the child is being abused. So first of all, we will go for this physical examination. It will detect injuries such as bruises, burns, swelling, retinal hemorrhage, bleeding in the back of the eye, internal damage such as bleeding or rupture of an organ, fractures of long bones or spinal type fractures that result from twisting, and fractured ribs or skull. Next, we will go for X-rays and another imaging techniques such as MRI, mirror resonance imaging, or scans. It may confirm or reveal other internal injuries too. The presence of injuries at different stages of healing, like that having occurred at different times, is nearly always indicative of child abuse. Thank you so much.